everybody to the City Chat. Today is November 20th and 2015, and Steve's going to give us updates on what's going on in Lake Mills. It's all yours, Steve.
We'll probably start off with the fact that there will be a review of a conditional use permit for culverts coming up at the November 24th meeting, and there will be a TID amendment that will be reviewed at that time. Currently had a joint review board meeting and had the preliminary discussion. Things went well. We're looking at having both projects moving sometime in 2016 if everything moves through as anticipated. The City Council is going to be reviewing a contract with Aris and Associates for a CPN project and Cantankerous, where they will do a remediation, submit a remediation plan to the state for environmental cleanup. And those are probably
Same crowd.
those are some of the things that I anticipate seeing in that time period. It's at the 621 and 624 East Lake Street. And there's some environmental contamination left over from the old Krapaco North plant. And there are about 6 or 7 minor hot spots where they're going to submit a plan to for remediation, which means that there will be something done that the state will accept in order to take them off the list. Doesn't mean they're clean, it just means that the state is satisfied with the condition that it's in. This generally requires, on the CPN site, about a foot of gravel in a couple locations. On the Cantankerous property, it'll probably involve some asphalt, some gravel, and about 2 feet of black dirt in a couple areas. And that'll cap the environmental contamination issues for the DNR and get them a letter of release. The December 1st meeting will probably also be looking at, council meeting will be looking at a change in the design of the South Main Street. And there will be a proposal before them at that point in time. And so people may want to be listening for that. Right now, at this time of year, we're basically finalizing all our contracts, trying to figure out, where money's left over from each project, what we've overspent on, and trying to make arrangements to get that money into an account where we can use it again next year. Otherwise, it drops into the unreserved fund balance or into the bond payment account. And so we spend a lot of time this time of year making sure that all our contractors have got their bills in. We shut our department heads off from writing any new bills until the end of the year, and try and make sure that we're prepared for the audit that starts in January. We've also started doing things like authorizing the engineering for East Lake Park Place and Griffith Street, which involves street repairs and sidewalks and water and sewer, storm sewer improvements. We also are working pretty intently on the South Main Street design and the Mulberry Street design, because both of those are state projects and they're generally a 6-year project. Other than that, most of the department heads are trying to wind down on their projects, get them closed out. I'm starting to really work hard on what we're going to do next year. What's the strategic vision, how we're going to get it done, how the funds are going to be handled, those types of things. So that's pretty much what we're doing this time of year. We also have completed the tax bills, or are pretty much in the point where we can submit the levies for the city of Lake Mills. It's pretty much the same as it was last year. Last year we were 22.19, and this year it looks like we're going to be 2, something like that. So it's, I don't know that anybody will really notice a difference. And those, we'll have that submitted to the county, and the county will be sending those bills out sometime early in December. You know that everybody's always interested in that. So that's pretty much what we're doing now. I did want to note that the city generally runs somewhere between 70 and 120 contracts a year, and that we have a lot of contractors who are long-term contractors. So we have like the audit, the appraisal, our elevator repair and inspection, weights and measures, building inspection, engineering, zoning. We have some lawn mowing contracts. We have our garbage contracts. We have the contract with the Humane Society for Animal Control. So we kind of are now in the process of reviewing all those and making sure that they're up to date and that we're charging appropriate fees in order to cover our costs there. The weights and measures involves gas stations and the grocery stores. Anywhere they have something that gets measured, we have to pay the state to come in and inspect them. And that generally costs us about $2,000 a year. So each one of those permits we divide that up and then send that out based on their cost. But we have a lot of contracts like that we have to, the taxi cab one, we have to go through and work with them to make sure that the rates are appropriate and covering their expenditures. Same with the trash collection. We have to make sure that we have a matching number of accounts, that they're billing us is equal to what we're sending out in bills, and so we have to go through and take care of all that. We've also been putting in place a plan to change out a lot of meters this year. So we have to go through a pretty intense process of, this is, you notify the people that you are coming, you try and schedule a time to be there. The person who comes in has to be dressed like this, he has to have his badge, he has to go in and take care of a certain number of things, he has to identify whether there are any cross connections, whether it's a lead service, is the meter inappropriately, and then he has to write down all the documentation, get all the wires taken care of, and come out of the building relatively confident that everything has been reviewed and that we have enough data to start to record so that we can keep track of that for the DNR, because the DNR is on that pretty tight. So that's one of the projects that we're on. No, alternate parking starts December 1st.
So how does that affect with the side street snow?
And we don't have alternate parking. We have no parking at all.
Parking at all? Yep, sorry.
And it doesn't start until December 1st. They have put all the salt spreaders on. They have their snow plows on. They've gone through, checked all the tires, checked all the engines, the oil, all the hydraulic fluids, made sure that the salt is ready to go.
Picked up every place they could find.
To date, there'll be more.
And they've been cleaning the street, picking up the weeds in the street.
Right.
So,
That's a combination of how we do it. The new street vac picks it up in the street, and then the vac just picks up the tree lawn. So that's a process that we've kind of run as a type that gets us through a lot faster, and we have to make a lot of rounds in a year because we move a lot of leaves. But as far as the snow, we're pretty much ready. There's always a few surprises. On Fridays, we always clean out the yard waste center, and there tends to be a lot of things that end up in the yard waste center that are hard on tires. So on any given Friday, we go through about 6 tires. So that would change how we respond to the snowstorm, depending on how fast we can get the tires changed out and set up and ready to go. Yeah, we go through I shouldn't say we go through them, they end up getting punctured and they go flat sometime in the course from whenever it occurs until the next time they look at the vehicle. So let's say they put the wheel loader away this afternoon, and they come in at midnight to plow snow and the tire's flat. And the first thing James has to do is go through, check all the vehicles, make sure all their tires are full, make sure that there hasn't been any leaks or any unusual things that have occurred to the trucks. And the guys are required to go through and do a minimum inspection on every truck before it leaves the shop. Every Friday they go through and wash all the vehicles because salt is really hard on all of them. So, but right now they probably won't do that because being prepared for the snowstorm, I imagine all the trucks are loaded with salt, except for the ones. And we have snow plows that we load with salt, and they're generally the 1.5 tons. And then we have the bigger 2 tons and 2.5s that we use for hauling snow. Because some of the issues that we plow all the parking lots, and we plow it into a pile, and then we have to haul it. So we have to have trucks that are available not to salt, but to haul snow. So we have several alternate trucks that we have that are just for hauling snow, not snow plowing. Then we have some trucks that are just for salting, they do both salting and snow plowing, but not all trucks do both.
Take the snow away, where do they dump that snow? Is there a place where it gets dumped all the time?
The majority of it gets dumped behind the fire department. Obviously we plow all the snow in Main Street in the business district to the center. And then the main parking lots are the municipal building, the one between Lake Street and Water Street, the one between Church Street and Main Street, and then the one out there by the American Legion and the library. So most of our main parking lots are downtown. So from a standpoint of, using less fuel, turning it over faster because most people want that snow out of there as quick as possible, we haul it to the area behind the fire station.
It just disappears.
W-
It's magic.
Let's put it this way. We thought about if we haul it to the industrial park, it still runs into ditch 35, which runs into Rock Creek. But it costs us more gas because we have to run further. It takes more time, so we end up spending more overtime. The vehicles running their diesel engines create more air pollution. The vehicles running up and down the street create more dust and other things that create more air pollution. So we're balancing, where is it ending up in the creek? How does it affect the creek? All those things, because they all tie together. So we've gone through and done all the calculations for each one of those to try and determine what the best location is. And that's probably, it might be a little bit better at Campus Street, but people use that for parking during that time period, and that's another parking lot. We generally clean, not try and dump it in. That's a last resort. The other one is putting it in the commons, which would work excellent. But then the snow stays in the commons until June 25th, which generally isn't very popular. No, even town and country. So it's, yeah.
I think it's sledding you can.
Yeah, but don't you, when you put it behind the fire station, they go all the way down in the service room, so they go as far back as they can and keep piling it up. And my backyard goes down to the service road, and some winters when we've had a lot of snow, I mean, you really need all that room to keep putting it down the service road.
It was a couple of years ago, we had so much snow that we started stacking at campus and in the industrial park, depending on where we were at, because there just wasn't any more room. And we use a bulldozer and stack it sometimes 20, 25 feet high. That area, it doesn't worry about how long the snow is there. Nobody cares. On the other hand, you're hauling a lot of snow that's got all the pollution off the street. So it's got salt and brake dust and oil and all that other stuff that then hits the mill pond. And So you have to weigh, does it have a more of an environmental impact on the mill pond or on ditch 35 and Rock Creek, and how do those balance? What are, how does the air pollution and the burning of additional fuel and all the additional costs balance out to determine whether it's a good spot or not?
Yeah.
There are a lot of other options. I mean, right now we have a yard waste center, and a kind of an example that's similar is we haul all our yard waste there. Right now, we can dispose of all our yard waste in a landfill at the county firing range. Firing range. Used to be the Lake Mills Conservation Club. Now the county bought it, and they use it for police training. And they allow some other types of shooting to go on there, but they have a big area where we fill. And we're allowed to haul our yard waste there as long as we compact it and cover it. When that space runs out, then what are our options? Well, now you have to start looking at, well, if we haul it to another place, how much is that going to cost us? How much time? How much turnover? How much are they going to charge us? If we go to composting, how much is the site going to cost us? How much is the equipment going to cost us? How do we get rid of the compost? So, we have to balance all those, and we're trying to think through all those processes all the time and weigh them out. And that's the same with the snow. Where do we go with the snow? When South Main Street's done, you got a wider sidewalk for a longer distance with a slightly wider street and a smaller tree line. So all that snow that's getting plowed off the street now has less tree lawn to fall onto a bigger sidewalk, which all those people have to maintain. You know about that?
I do know about
Yeah.
that.
So then what are we going to do? That's
I'm going to call City Hall next week.
and the state doesn't, they have a certain amount of money that they have to get a new street in with, and they don't care about that long-term issue. That's my problem. So what do I do? And so those are, when we look at the original proposal on South Main Street, it was, if you got 160 trees that are coming out, what's the best option in the long run for taking care of the street? Well, there are millions of variables that apply. From a pure administrative standpoint, the proposed design that's out there right now is as clean as it gets. If you start adding in other variables, you can change that. So we'll look at it.
Can you talk a little bit about the historic districts that might come about from the 2018 road?
Well, there's only one historic district that I know of on the 2018 project. There's also one.
South Main, yeah, that would be South Main Street.
Right. There'll be another one in 2019 on Mulberry.
Oh, okay.
The one on South Main Street's pretty limited, and it runs from what used to be the Mauer property north to just south of the business district. And it incorporates several houses in that area.
Will the business district be part of that too?
Yes, I think it will, because if I remember correctly, the Commons is in it.
Okay.
The one on Mulberry Street will start primarily at, is it Oak Street or Washington, wherever the Fargo Mansion. Actually, no, it is Oak Street. It starts just north of the post office and has a couple houses there, and then runs north about a block and a half. And that'll be a pretty substantial historic district.
And it should be, it's beautiful there.
So that'll be part of that project, and we have to go through, same with, state paid for this one, we have to pay for the one on Mulberry. But we have to go through and identify all the historic properties and then offer them the same package that's being offered on South Main Street. So, Anything else?
Steve, do you maybe want to talk a little bit about the proposed site plan at Culver's and the possible impact that that could have on Pizza Pit and the car wash over there as well too?
The proposed conditional use permit that's out there right now is just for the drive-through. The final site plan isn't really done, but let's consider the concept that if it were done as showing it with the drive-through in its current position, the car wash has historically used the motel property to access their car wash. The Culver's site plan as currently shown would not allow that to occur. Pizza Pit really wouldn't be affected, but the car wash would be significantly impacted. That's not really an issue that the city can consider. Culver's is meeting all the condition requirements that the city looks at within their site plan. So we review their site plan, and they've got, you know, the 10-foot green space around the site. They got adequate parking. They got good drainage. Their building meets all the aesthetic requirements. That's what we get to review. We have indicated to Culver's that we would be willing to move forward variances that allowed for some options. They have looked at them. I don't know where they will go. But that's really not a city issue. That's a civil issue, and was really we're not going to try and get involved in that. You know, Culver's lawyers and the car wash's lawyers will have to resolve that, in my opinion. If it gets that far, I don't know that it will. The impact is more along the lines of how many cars are going where from Culver's, and that Culver's is actually taking over the area that was the liquor store and the motel pyramid. So there has been a certain amount of traffic there. The restricting of the driveways to a narrow location at a specific site further away from the intersection will improve traffic. As far as conflicts coming in and out, the motel and liquor store's got a driveway that's about 100, 150 feet wide. This one's narrowed down to 30, so you only have a certain number of cars that can access the road at any given point, so you reduce the number of potential conflicts significantly. They will also have an access on Elm Street, which will give people an option to leave the site rather than go on to County Highway V directly, and that should improve the conflicts. The other potential issue is how many vehicles will be in the queue at the street light. And when we did the TID number 4 originally in 2005, and we did the North Side neighborhood plan, you know, we set up where that area would be highly commercial and highly developed, and we knew there'd be a lot of traffic. 2013, we did, once we had a significant development in outside the core area of this traffic light, we did a traffic impact analysis. And it is on the website with the conditional use permit. And it reviews when certain features have to be built in, and so the city's been planning already. So if you look at all the data on there, you can see where we've provided additional access for all those businesses outside the area of that intersection. So we provided an alternate for Quick Trip, we provided an alternate for Subway BP, we provided an alternate for BSC's development there. So we believe that our goal is to keep Main Street from getting to be too wide, because with the school district, with the elementary school there, a lot of young children have to cross that street. And so we didn't want a 4 or 5 lane street down there. So having Elm and Birch Street added and providing options to get through, additional options on County Highway B to get through will help control that issue. Providing additional options for all the businesses in that intersection hopefully will help them be able to survive the changes in the designs. So we spent a lot of time reviewing it, planning for it, spent a lot of money putting packages together, buying easements to make sure that things would be as good as we can make them based on what's there now.
Is there still a plan to put the median in that, on that street, on Highway B?
That's a state requirement,
Okay.
and the state, we can put it in at any time, but the state has a requirement of 1,000 vehicles per hour, or 24,000 vehicles a day. That would probably trigger that.
Would that impact the ability for, big semi trucks to turn into the BP station over there?
It depends on how it's designed. They may have some kind of cross access through the island that would allow in only. Their issue will probably be larger with relationship to the number of vehicles queuing up at the traffic light. It's already an issue. So as more and more vehicles start queuing up in that area, semi trucks will be advised to find different locations to access the site. The same with Quick Trip. Their first driveway is way too close to the intersection, and you have cars that are coming out of that driveway trying to cross the street too close to the queue, and semis sitting there waiting for those cars to pull out virtually from the driveway all the way to the intersection, so they clog traffic up already. That's not an issue that's going to be, that's an issue already. So the second, we do have proposals on how that will work. We have laid them out for Quick Trip, and they know what they are, and they'll be prepared to deal with them when they feel they need to, or the state forces the island.
Is it the state DOT?
Yeah.
So
We can put the island in any time.
we're in no rush to do that.
No, not right now. I don't think the traffic is at the point where it justifies it yet. The problems that are there aren't going to be exacerbated significantly by culverts yet.
If the first driveway of Quick Trip was not there, forcing cars to go to the second one and come out of the second one, a lot of the congestion would not be there. Because I already do that. I go in the first one, but I always come out the second one.
Same here.
Because then you get a more lead between the corner, and you can see better there too. There aren't quite as many entrances.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be an important change. There are several things that can be done immediately that can provide some relief. We're just going to have to wait and see what starts to occur, and there aren't enough warrants yet, traffic accidents or other issues to justify forcing the expenditures. One of them may be to add an additional lane so that traffic can pull out into that additional lane to turn into Quick Trip. So I know there will be an additional lane for culverts. There'll be the 2 traffic lanes, and then there'll be 2 turn lanes. And
Would we gain anything if we were to deal with some of those early interventions we just mentioned, earlier than later, and then maybe that would lower the number of cars on the things so that it wouldn't trigger the state into putting in the island as early?
we have been working on it. We put all the plans in place. We've offered it to the owners. They aren't interested yet.
Okay. could end up triggering the DOT to put the island in, which they could actually maybe postpone that 5-10 years even, if it remedies some of the backup on 89, right?
It could.
So I hope they're thinking about that.
I would hope they would too.
Yeah, I mean, just because it makes a problem for everybody, not just people that
They run a lot of gas stations at a lot of different locations, and I'm sure that they have a pretty good idea of what their trigger point is going to be. We provided them with all the information. We told them what we were thinking about. They have shown an interest in taking care of those problems, just not yet. And I'm assuming as they start to see more development occurring at that area, they'll have to take actions.
as a council member, I just want people in the city to know that it's not the city generating this. We are not asking for an island. We're not encouraging any development that would be.
It's a DOT requirement.
This
from the
is something
states.
we're being told is coming, not something we have developed. So I don't want somebody calling me and saying, why are you doing that? We're not doing that. We're just as much of the, what's the word, the person who's been affected as are the other people.
I don't think that we want to deny the need for it. I mean, it's important. We're here to protect the citizens of Lake Mills and reduce traffic accidents and do all the things that are required. We've done as much as we could possibly do to mitigate the impacts by providing alternatives. And I think, yeah, right, and I think that from that standpoint, we had to anticipate that development was going to occur up there in one form or another. And so we've done a lot of planning and a lot of preparing to make a tough situation as good as we can.
I'd also want to say that I think if we hadn't put in Birch Street and we weren't putting in Elm Street, I think you'd see this island thing coming much sooner, because the backup would be already. I mean, I use Birch Street all the time and just avoid the corner. If I go to Summit or I go to McDonald's, I come down and go through town and go out that way and back again. I just stay out of the intersection, and I'm sure other people are doing the same thing. And once Elm Street is opened up, then we'll turn that off as soon as I find it.
When will Elm Street go first?
Hopefully the same time as Quick Trip. And they're looking at July 15th
Oh, 16? Okay.
as being done.
And both the Culvers and Elm Street project are kind of dependent on each other, would you say?
Well, we've been planning on Elm Street anyways.
Yes.
But there were a certain number of economic factors that occurred between the time we'd originally planned it and when we went to build it. We actually had all the plans done, we're ready to build out Elm Street, but the Act 145, which took about 50% of the levy off the property taxes for the MATC, and then Act 10, our levy, our total city levy was generally about 24. It dropped to 22. Well, that difference made a pretty significant impact in how much TID increment we got. So our ability to pay debt dropped. And then Walgreens sued us and got $1 million reduction in their assessment, even though we did it exactly the way the state told us to. The judges in the state still aren't in agreement on that. So watch the dark store legislation moving forward. But anyways, those issues impacted the TID enough that we held off on constructing Elm. We originally had Elm and Birch going at the same time. The increment generated by and the areas of the Pyramid Hotel and the liquor store were in the town of Lake Mills, not the city. So we couldn't put a TID there anyways. So we could build the right-of-way, but we didn't have TID there. So now we're amending the TID to include that land, and with culverts going in there, that allows us to generate enough additional increment to pay for that Elm Street will bring on. We'll probably have to pay for the lanes on County Highway V for the turns there too.
Might be a good time to mention that the money from the TIDs do not come out of tax dollars that everybody, I mean, they come out of somewhere, a big pot, but not our little pot of the city.
It's not the general fund. So money that the average resident pays in doesn't go to it. It's only the money that comes from the businesses in the TID. That's new increment. And I shouldn't even say new increment. That's above the original assessed value of the TID, because we've seen where some of the properties in the TID will drop down. In fact, I've seen a lot of it in the nation.
Not here. We've had a little bit.
A little bit, but not enough to make us have debt problems. But whatever is above that original base still generates revenue towards the TID. So even though there was value loss in the TID, the other districts didn't really notice it because it was already above that. So whatever dropped below it, they didn't lose that. They just picked up out of what was the TID. And the TID lost money. So between the loss in the levy and the loss in the value of TID, we had to slow down Elm Street. And so it became an issue, well, with, first of all, culverts needed it, and second of all, they were providing enough increment to pay for it. The Anytime Fitness property made up for the Walgreens difference. And with the new legislation, I think we'll capture Walgreens again. And so I'm hoping that the TID will, even though the levy tends to continue to drop, we'll be okay.
Are there any updates to the dam that you can tell us?
Well, it's pretty much still the same. It's the same design. We have all our permits. We just need to go out for bid in January and look at having it done this summer 16.
Okay, so next summer, there's gonna be lots of new things going on in Lake Mills. You're gonna have Elm Street go through, you're gonna have culverts, you're gonna have a new dam.
Going to have East Lake Park Place with sidewalks. Going to have Griffith Street.
So lots of improvements
All right.
to
The
Lake Mills.
Department of Public Works building should be done. Yeah, there'll be a lot. Probably even a few more things.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Something's always popping up.
One of the things I was going to ask is, Steve, and we've talked about Elm Street and kind of being, having a little bit of being too fast a speed sometimes. What is the city going to do to make sure that that doesn't become, a raceway for people?
Well, have you driven down Elm Street?
Yes. Right.
And it's a raceway?
Sometimes.
Because it's 2.5 blocks long with a stop sign in the middle. So it's hard for most American cars to hit 35 miles an hour in that distance. And the streets,
Are you
the
talking
streets
about your
kind of,
driving there? No. Oh, no.
and then the street's kind of rough to top it off. So a survey indicates that traffic isn't speeding on that street. Their police department. So it's a condition of just a view of everybody. We get a lot of people who think that traffic is speeding on their street. When you actually put them out there and have them shooting it, that's not going that fast. And I don't care if you're sitting there in a hidden squad car, if you have a sign out there, or if you have a citizen sitting there running on. The impression when you're sitting there is they're going that fast, but when you actually shoot them, they're not going that fast. So I find it, there are other areas where I would believe that there was speeding long before I believed Elm Street. And Elm Street is going to be a double stop sign at that location anyways. And most people are going to turn and either head out to Madison Street or Main Street. So Pine Street may see more impact than Elm Street. And I noticed that Pine Street's seen more impact from the elementary school than they probably would from Elm Street.
Maybe you can comment on the police department's involvement in the Amber Alert arrest that took place on Sunday night.
Well, they responded, they helped.
Maybe mention that it took place on township land.
Yep.
Just so that it was on township, not on city.
I tried not to bring that up, even though that's the first thing that runs through my mind.
I think it's important for people to understand that they weren't primary. They were supporting staff.
Right.
Because the county.
Mutual aid.
Yeah, but there's a difference.
Right.
When you're walking into an issue, if you're the head team or you're the secondary team. And they were the secondary team on that issue.
Right.
That's my point.
We did respond first, and our job was to stay there and make sure nobody left. And then when Jefferson County, we aided them, assisted them, which is, part of our mutual aid agreement with the county. But it was an important event. Showed that a lot of things work. It does point to another issue that we've noted for a long time, was that Lake Mills tends to be a point between Madison and Milwaukee where a lot of people stop that are involved in activities that aren't high quality.
Things most citizens don't even know about, I
Right.
can imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
Yeah.
And hopefully it won't be always a problem. Maybe we're working on trying to get that eliminated or cut back. By being
The more authority we have over the location, the easier it is for our police department to deal with it.
The other hotel on the north end of the freeway, that's also town? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was a good question because that was big in the news all over.
I got text message updates on Sunday night
Yeah.
saying that, okay, there was something, an Amber Alert had been issued, so.
Every cell phone in the house, I
Oh,
got,
yeah.
Everybody got it.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
At the timeline, by the time we got that Amber Alert, weren't the police
Pretty much.
already taking care of the situation, which I thought was kind of ironic the next day.
It
when I
was
saw about
4
the time.
hours after the child was taken, so.
Yeah, I just thought that was odd because when I saw what time the police responded,
Yeah.
it's like, I thought our alert went off after that time.
the police said that the gentleman who called it in was watching the Amber Alert on the TV, and then he looked out and he said,
Oh, wow.
Okay,
so it was kind of like that.
okay.
That's
So it was
amazing.
almost
Yeah.
the exact time, okay.
The Amber Alert must have taken a while though, because the car was jacked, and then he did a strong arm robbery in Brookfield, and then he stopped and got a place in Lake Mills, and he had already been around asking if he could get a ride out the next day because he lost his keys. Right.
That little girl will not remember that adventure, which is good.
At least he didn't harm her,
Yeah.
that's the main thing, she wasn't harmed. It sounded like he took care of her, took
Yeah.
her in, and, reinstated her.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's all that
Yeah.
happens.
But it goes to show that, normal citizens can make an impact, right?
Yeah.
When they keep their eyes open, right?
There are other ones though. That weekend they recovered a stolen car, and
In Lake
but
Mills?
yeah, but someone had left their keys in their car and it got stolen.
Gee,
That's surprising.
that's weird.
Same, someone left a camera in their car and it was stolen.
That can happen when the car's
So
open.
yeah, I know that people around here don't want to feel like they need to do that, but they're probably advisable. At least don't leave your keys in your car.
Right.
And don't leave something valuable in the car with it being unlocked.
Yeah.
We like being a small town, but you can't say that because we're in a small town, we live in 1950.
Right.
Because the world has changed, even though Lake Mills is looking a little old-fashioned, kind of legend.
The attitudes in Lake Mills make us a target because people from the east and the west find us, hey, they feel safe, they're comfortable, let's go take advantage. And while we do have a good police department and they do have a good record of recovery and protection, there's some things you just can't stop.
Can't prevent problems. We don't have a police department that are, that's the word when you can tell something's going
Omniscient.
Psychic, yeah.
Psychic. They're not psychic. You can't tell before it happens.
They're not all-knowing.
Yes. We tried looking for that candidate, but we got the next best thing.
You'll be happy to hear that.
And we have a good communication system,
Yeah.
which is next to being psychic.
Yeah, I think that was the key. Yeah. Any other big questions?
Anything you think we missed today?
Well, a lot of the questions you had, if you look at the paperwork on the website, and then when you see me again, just ask about them, because I can explain, like we took a special easement across the BCS property to route traffic out for BP and subway. So, and we've done that type of stuff, and you can see down there if you look. So, TIA's there, the TID documents there, so there's a lot of.
When I asked that question about the median, one thing that I was worried about was, not only, was really the semi-traffic going into BP, because making that right turn off the main street into the subway parking lot, that would be really, really tough for a semi to make that turn. And we were talking about other ways to get cars and semi-trucks into that parking lot, so that's the reason why I asked that question.
Yeah, we've looked at it. It'll be tough. It's bad now,
Yeah.
so it won't get any better in the future. And they're looking at a new subdivision over in the town of Lake Mills that would have added traffic. And anything that goes on there is going to add traffic. So Lake Mills has to be prepared for this change, and we've tried to do everything we could to mediate it as soon as possible.
Maybe I'm wrong, but right now when the semis come in and turn right onto Tyranina, if you're trying to get into the BPS gas station, right now you have to get pulled over next to the where the line is. And you have to wait for the cars to go through the light to get out of your way, and then you can see. It's not going to be any different because they will have a turn lane there.
Okay.
There will be a break somewhere along that line.
It could be designed in. That's possible. I won't guarantee the state will allow it, but
Diann Fritsch says there should be a turn lane there.
when I talked to the owner of the BP, he said, well, if we can get a sign that says in here, down by Main Street, that'll discourage them from turning on to Tyranina and trying to turn in. If they can come down Main Street and pull in on the backside and come around, it's probably ultimately easier, because now they pull in, then they have to figure out how to turn around and come back out. If they come down Main Street and come around the back, then they're already facing out towards. Yeah, so there's already a circulation issue internally, and maybe this will help it. But a little bit of signage, like trucks in here, we'd certainly consider anything to make that area better.
Yeah, if you say trucks in here, and then, because this in here is going to make anyone driving think they should go.
Yeah. So we're looking at as many things as we can possibly put together, and we're not opposed to anything we think would help. But you also don't want to impede vision. So.
Well, and when you put in a thing just like we have the island on South Beach, the big Long Island, which keeps you from crossing from BP over, and you got to go over down toward the
Subway
before you get across. Well, that's been kind of redesigned a couple times. We've done, and that's not us. That's the DOT. So I'm sure that when that time comes and that gets put in, they may make some mistakes putting it in. and then they'll figure out, oh, that didn't work so well. Then they'll come in and they'll fix what they did, and then eventually it'll get right. But you sometimes don't know the effect until it's there. You don't always, I mean, we're not all, we're not all knowing, as you said earlier. We can't just get in our crystal ball and see what problems there are going to be without getting it going. And then we might find, oh, and then the DOT might come in and say, well, this left turn lane right here isn't going to work. We're running after all trucks down to Elm Street and around to come in from the back for BP. And that may be what they decide to do too. So until we know, we aren't going to, I mean, we're good, but we're not that good.
But if you have a trucker with double trailers like UPS has sometimes, it's darn hard to make those trips. And they really want where they go to fuel.
Well, would those be the kind of trucks that would go there, or would they be delivery trucks for those businesses? Of course, that could still be UPS.
If it's a double one, it's going to the distributor.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, it's just a fuel.
Oh, just fuel.
They're over the road truckers and they're just going into fuel.
They'll go where it's easy to go.
They'll go where it's
And where the
easy.
company credit card is.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Any new businesses other than Culver's looking at making a move here? I know you were, the last time we met, you were talking about Waltech, was it? And are they still looking to move into that site over there?
I have not heard.
Okay.
I shouldn't say that. I did hear that they are drawing back and have decided to wait until the spring to make a decision. Basically related to some of the environmental issues. So I don't know, were you here when I talked about on the next agenda we have the remedial action plan and contract for the CPN aggressive metals. That'll be on the December 1st agenda.
Okay. Do you want to maybe explain some of the environmental issues with that property? It's right behind Hamlin, right?
That's right across the street from Hamlin.
Gotcha.
There's some chloride cleaning materials that when they get into the ground, they turn into another chemical that becomes an environmental issue. They're just a couple small hot spots that require a little bit of capping, so like 1 foot of gravel. There's one area on the aggressive metals site which probably will require more action, but it's not significant. Either one of them, when I say not significant, it's still like $170,000 worth of work. Because you do the work, the cappings, asphalt and black dirt and gravel, and then you have to monitor for a year. And the monitoring is like $40,000. And the asphalt's going to be about 45, 50, and then the black dirt and gravel is pretty minimal.
But this is across the street from Hamlin. Is it across, I forget what street that is.
Lake.
Is it across the lake or
Yeah.
is it, okay,
It's right straight north of Hamlin.
okay.
It's a big 2-story building, and then which is CPN, and then aggressive metals is the metal pole barns right along the creek. And yeah, they've been on the list for a long time, and we've done the phase 1, 2, and 3 already. So we're at the remedial action plan, and it just needs to get filed. And it won't take long next summer to get those cleaned up, get them off the list.
And hopefully we can get that company in here, right?
Their issues are much broader,
Okay.
so I guess we'll see what happens.
All right.
Back to any new business, are there any businesses in Lake Mills expanding? That you know of, that are pulling building permits to expand their operations or anything like that in the horizon we see coming up?
Not that I,
Aware of or can talk about?
yeah.
Everything's still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I would at least like the owner to say, yeah, you can talk about it and it'd be 50%. You know how John was. Well, it's not 100% guaranteed yet.
He's very good at not
I guess-
giving out when it shouldn't be given.
I guess I will ask this question. You know, we, I think it was last year, you made South Main Street into a TID district, right? Has there been any signs that development could happen, you know, either with Topol's or with putting in new businesses over there, or that that plot of land that, I mean, the city owns that used to be JJ's down there that you guys tore down last year? Any development with that at all?
We've actually had more interest in residential development on lands to the south. Most businesses are going to wait until after South Main Street because borrowing money and putting in that kind of investment, you're going to want revenue streams, and the Main Street project would definitely hamper that. So I don't anticipate we'll see any business type development until 18. Same with the other ones, but they've been in, you know, looking at the water and sewer, see how, you know, if they're going to be able to build homes, or, you know, what kind of traffic patterns they're going to have to deal with and that type of stuff. So I've had 2 property owners interested in residential development. Those are, of course, you know that like Topol's has been in and expressed interest in modifying their site and needing to make changes. But again, it's advisable not to start until after 18.
If there would be a few subdivisions that would go in residential in that area, would that affect then the water lines and the sewer lines that you put down? Would that have an effect of long-term planning?
Or are we already?
No, we already planned all that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to go into detail, I can tell you how we plan to split. Right now, everything drains to Lake Street, and we're going to split it into Water Street and Lake Street. And then if anything develops north of the interstate on that property owned by those people over there,
Yeah.
they can take their lift station and put it into the North Main Street manhole at the end up there by BP, and then that would run down Lake Street, would take up the capacity that's currently used by the south side. The south side will be in the capacity on Water Street, and so we'll have a lot of capacity headed south and a lot of capacity headed north by that split. And so that's how this was. We've been planning on that since 2003 when the sanitary sewer study was done. We did the sanitary sewer study, the water study, the transportation study, and they all kind of tie together, in the electric study. So if you go through and read all those reports, they all tie together on how we would develop each side and what we would put in place to make each one of them function in an appropriate fashion.
Any interest on the old JJ's property?
No, not really. We've had a couple bites, but nothing.
I think one of the things you have to remember is some of these people who develop or buy are going to wait till the road is done. I mean, even if I was a developer, I'm not going to buy it now. Why would I do that? And then they have the road closed for a whole year before I can get any benefits.
Exactly.
So I think there are people out there, but the timing isn't right. And we kind of see that as a council. We know that that's kind of how life is. It's just like the planning is very, very, very important. Yet most of the people in the city don't even realize we're doing it. And we don't want Lake Mills to look like the Highway 83 intersection down toward Waukesha, because you've got 4 different townships there. Each one was doing their own thing, and they didn't integrate with each other, and you got what you've got there. We don't want it to look like that in Lake Mills. And as Steve said, what year was it, 2003, when you started?
The first one, yeah, 2004, 2005, we did all those plans.
And unless you're on the council or the planning commission or the public works board, you probably don't pick up on that, because it's not like having culverts come to Lake Mills. It's not the same thing. It's really boring stuff, to be real honest, but it's terribly important. And we have been doing that. We're a very well-planned city. It's amazing as a council person. When I came on the council this time, I was surprised at how much was already done and taken care of as far as planning that I didn't even know of, and I'm kind of probably more aware of things than a lot of other people. So, and I do have competition with the coffee grinder, but that's not, anyway. But the point being that I think people in town can sleep somewhat confidently at night because the city is being well taken care of, well planned, and a lot of foresight. We've been putting in a lot of foresight. We have foresight from your group, we have foresight from your group. People tell us all the time, have you thought of? Just this past week, I got a phone call from somebody saying something about something, and then I sent them to Steve and had Steve explain where we are on it right now, because I couldn't do it justice personally. I knew we had talked about it, but he usually has a pretty good umbrella on everything. So when I got that, I called Steve and asked him that question, and you answered the question and so forth. But yeah, we're not just reacting to things that come in. We have
There's a lot of proactive work done behind the scenes that most people don't know about.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention for everybody's importance is sometimes we say no to something. And the reason we say no is because it's not in the benefit of everybody in the city of Lake Mills. When we look at plans, we have to make sure that the buildings that are going up are ADA code, that they have, that they're offering ways for handicap to get into the building and out of the building. You'd be surprised how many builders try to skirt around that and just put up a piece of architecture, but it's not made the right way. And so we sometimes have to say no as a council. But it's not because we're mean and awful. It's because our job is to look out for everybody in this city, not just certain people or not just the developers. I mean, we try to be, workable with the developer, but the developer has to work with us as well. Fire coverage. When a development goes in, we have to look at how accessible is that development to the fire department. And you'd be surprised how many come in with a one road in and no way out. I mean, think about that. Do you want to live in that building where you could, where nobody can get out? You need at least 2 entrances, and they don't want to do that. A lot of them want to do it by bottom dollar. And we say, sorry, but not in our city. You want to do that? Go somewhere else. And they usually do that. They often will go to another city that doesn't have the rules and regulations that we have to protect our people. And that happens. But if somebody dies in a fire that we could have prevented because of how we let the site plan go through, I guess I wouldn't sleep too good at night as a council person. But you don't always know that when you're not on the inside track. And we tell Steve to make sure that those things are in line too. So, sorry Steve, I up on you there. But I think it's important for the public to know. And I'm assuming some people watch the video. So.
Think you're all done?
Yeah.
Okay.
The comprehensive plan ties all of them together, because they all have to go like this, and so you'll know we have a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, we have a comprehensive sewer plan, we have a comprehensive plan which then ties together the outdoor recreation plan, the sanitary sewer plan, the stormwater plan, the water plan, the bike trail plan, the sidewalk plan, business plan, economic development plan. So we spend a lot of time thinking about all these things and trying to put them together. And this, in fact, on the South Main Street, we spend a lot of time working with Main Street and the Chamber to make sure that we're putting things in place and trying to have ideas of what we're going to do when those things occur. And
A good place to look for information would be the city website. There's a lot of those documents on the city website. And also, Dave, what's the name of the Facebook page where you have the videos now? Your Facebook page. Lake Mills, yeah, so it's on YouTube and Lake Mills TV Facebook page. A lot of videos of a lot of these meetings that talk about what's going on and plans and things like that. So it's highly recommended that people go to the website, go to the Facebook page, go to YouTube and look at those.
you go to the website, you'll get the videos,
Okay.
because they're all attached to the agendas.
Oh, yeah,
But if you're just going, Dave did a video on the capital improvement plan,
right.
which is very good, and provides a lot of information.
Yeah, that's a, yeah, the
That was
capital
on
improvement
YouTube and
plan is on
Facebook.
the YouTube channel and the Facebook page for Lake Mills videos. That's very helpful.
And then if you are a person who likes to get into that behind the scenes stuff, that this is interesting to you, we do have an opening on our planning commission right now that you could put in your application. Now, it isn't a sure thing that when we get more than one person applying, but if we don't know that you would like it, we're not going to call you up and say, would you please be on the planning commission? You need to come to City Hall, pick up the, or it's on online too, isn't it, the form, the application form? But fill it out, tell us who you are, why you'd be good, and we'll consider it at the council for appointment. But we do have a current opening, and we're looking for good people who care about Lake Mills.
I hear you got time.
Yeah. She's segueing from my board to her.
I know, I know.
Carol, you got like 10 minutes free every day.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate it. We try to have these meetings every quarter, a city chat, and every quarter there's always new things to talk about. So have a great Thanksgiving and a great Christmas, and we'll see you
In the new year.
winter, right, in the new year.
And the 10th anniversary of Main Street
Yay!
is coming up. in
10-year
2006.
anniversary in 2016.